Welcome to the Addiction Solution Podcast. I'm Michelle Dunbar. Enjoy listening and watching as addiction experts Mark Sheeran and I cover controversial as well as helpful topics on addiction, how to move past it, and other related subjects. As two of the co-founders of the Freedom Model, Mark and I will give you a completely new perspective on the topics that matter to you. We will take to task the Recovery Society's lies and misinformation and replace them with facts, research, and the methods to move on from addiction struggles without 12-step meetings, rehabs, and the shackles of endless recovery. Let's escape the treatment and recovery trap together and learn to be free. Welcome to the truth. Hey, everybody. Our goal has always been to provide you with a solution to addiction that doesn't require you to go to rehab, do any steps, or go to meetings.
Or even be stuck on MAT regimens for the rest of your life either. And we built a workshop that we did last week and the week prior. We did 4 of them, and we picked the best one for you. And so it's a 2.5-hour workshop. It's called The Solution to Addiction. And it's amazing. We cover how to deconstruct your binge construct, why you do the things you do, because that's one of the questions we get all the time. Why do I keep doing this? And we give the answer for that. And we give the solution, a way out, a path out that makes sense.
Absolutely. When you get the Solution to Addiction course, we now have it as a course, and you can go right to thefreedommodel.org. It's right at the top. It says the Solution to Addiction. When you get it, you also get the Solution to Addiction book that we just wrote and the accompanying workbook. And you get the Freedom Model for Addictions book and the Freedom Model for the Family as well within that course module.
Yeah. So you literally have all the information, plus we teach you. And it's a really empowering, powerful course.
It is. So go to thefreedommodel.org or go right into the Freedom Model mobile app. And you'll see that if you hit, I think, the Discover, you'll see that we have the Solution to Addiction there for you.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Addiction Solution. I'm Michelle Dunbar.
And I'm Mark Sheeran.
And we have a guest today. Her name is Emma, and she is in Finland. And she contacted us because she's a podcast listener about her experiences leaving AA. And she has a really great story to tell about those experiences. And I think it's going to be helpful to a lot of people in our audience. So welcome, Emma.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We're happy to have you. And so I think we can start with just, tell us a little bit about how I know you ended up going to a very young age. So tell us about the events that led up to that.
Yeah, well, I started drinking when I was 13, and then I went to AA when I was 19, and somebody from my family, I'm not gonna say who because I kind of want to protect.
I understand.
Yeah, but somebody was already in AA, and then I was telling them that I think I have a drinking problem, so going to AA was the obvious choice for me. And I was never like a very bad drunk because I finished high school and I had a job, and it wasn't all that bad. But I think the last year, like between the ages of 18 and 19, it was pretty bad, and there was some drugs involved. But I think it was also about being a teenager. So now that I think about it, it might have been kind of misdiagnosis to be like, you're an alcoholic, because I was so young.
I know. Yeah. And we do know that the highest that heavy drinking rates peak between the ages of 18 and 24. And it's something like in this country, there's an estimate that 70% would fit the criteria for alcohol use disorder based on their binge drinking styles between that age group. I mean, that's 7 out of 10 young people. And once they get to about 30 years old, that drops to 25%. So there's a significant shift. Most people age out of that very, very quickly. But so you ended up, did you have to go to rehab first?
Well, actually, first I went to AA, and then my sponsor recommended a rehab to me. So,
Of
so then I went
course.
to rehab, and then I went to a halfway house. So it was overall almost a year of treatment.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
So can I jump in a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
So she's got a list of questions. So I don't know what they are. So we're going to be surprised together. When you said that you had said to a family member that I think I have a drinking problem, was that when you were 18, when you were hitting it heavy, or was that before that when you were younger?
It was when I was 18 or maybe even 19, I think. So,
okay.
Yeah, before that, he kind of saw that I was drinking heavily and using some drugs, but I never mentioned to them that I want to quit or that I think I have a problem or anything like that. He was kind of just witnessing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, did you come from a family that was, they knew about treatment, they knew about AA, or were they totally clueless and they just sort of made the recommendation because that's what everybody does?
Yeah, they knew about it, and somebody in my family was already in AA, so it was very, very familiar to
Yep.
them.
Was it familiar to you? Did you go as a kid?
No, I didn't. I mean, I was invited to like AA birthday celebrations, but I never went. So yeah.
Okay, so you really didn't know what you were getting into.
Not really. I mean, there were some AA meetings held up in my home sometimes or something like that, but I didn't really know that much about it. And yeah, so I knew
Gotcha.
that there are alcoholics and they talk to each other and they help each other out, but yeah, that's about it.
Okay. All right. I'll step back now. You can ask.
No, I want to talk about it. I didn't realize that you were a year in treatment. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it was pretty interesting because I think like I didn't know a lot about like drug world and criminal people and stuff like that. And then I went to this halfway house with a bunch of like ex-cons and I think in a way it kind of opened my eyes, and I've never met people like that before. So I guess it made me more tolerating and stuff like that. But at the same time, I was like, is this a really, like a healthy environment for me? Like I was a 19-year-old girl, not even a woman, I think.
Right.
And then it was kind of heavy stuff to live there for that period of time.
Yeah, that sounds terribly dangerous. And how, were your parents involved in this? Did they know about this?
Yeah, they knew, and they knew that I went to the halfway house, and it wasn't like they recommended it or they didn't really encourage me, and they were kind of like, is this really something you have to do? So yeah.
And did you feel like it was something you needed to do, or in the back of your mind were you thinking, boy, I think this is overkill? Or how did you feel about this whole experience? Because I was the same age, going through the same thing that you went through, almost identical. Mine was not a halfway house. Mine was an IOP program where I went every day into a mental hospital, actually, which was horrible. But did you know what you were getting into, or was it all kind of a surprise?
It was kind of a surprise for me. Luckily, I started community college at the same time, so I had some other life going on as well.
That is good.
Yeah, but yeah, it was pretty strange experience. And I remember talking, like we had therapists in the halfway house, and I kept telling them that I'm not sure if I'm an alcoholic, and maybe this is a mistake. And I think everyone else were like, yeah, this is just your disease talking or whatever.
Yeah.
But now I understand that maybe I was right. I mean, probably I was right, because it was like a huge voice inside my head that was telling me that maybe this is kind of like an overreaction.
Yeah, that's such a great point, because especially so many young people are basically, pulled out of their young lives and stuck in these treatment programs because they're partying, right? They're just, I mean, and I get it's scary, especially in this day and age with fentanyl and people using different drugs and stuff. Um, but but then when you say that, because I said the same thing, that, I'm just not sure that I need this. And in my estimation, I wasn't sure there was actually such a thing as an alcoholic even then. But I definitely didn't think I fit the bill, even though I had gone through withdrawal. Like I thought I stopped on my own. Like I don't think I really need this. But the moment you say that, like that to them reinforces that you need it more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that's denial. And so you can't, you're in an infinite loop. There's no way out. So you were in this halfway house. Were you thus trying to like work your way to be able to get out and move on?
Or were you playing the game and feeling like you needed to be there and you had to finish this? Where did you fit on that spectrum?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was pretty motivated. Even though I was like, maybe I'm not an alcoholic, I wanted to finish it. And that's also kind of part of my personality that I always try to
too.
finish things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to finish it and be a good AA member. And part of the halfway house was that we had to attend like 3 AA or NA meetings a week. So yeah.
Well, at least it was only 3. I mean, a lot of the halfway houses here, I think you have to go every day.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So did you end up finishing college and like so parts of your life were kind of moving on, but you ended up staying in AA after the halfway house, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how long were you in AA?
I was in AA for almost 13 years.
Wow.
All right. So somewhere along the line, you started to believe the narrative that you needed this. Or let me ask you this. Do you think that you were a kid? For the audience, I don't know anything about her, so I'm asking questions off the cuff here. Were you the type of person that was looking for approval? Was there a hole in your life where you didn't fit? Like for me, I went to AA when I realized, first of all, I was introduced to AA as a young child. So I knew a lot about it. And so by the time I went, I thought it was inevitable that I had to go. So that's not your situation. You kind of had a cursory knowledge, it sounds like, and then you end up there still questioning it. But somewhere along the lines, it seems like you must have, did you have a desire to be accepted? Did you not fit in life well? I mean, what made the desire for you to keep going?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've definitely been an approval seeker when I was younger, not so much anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of wanted to make my sponsor proud. I mean, she's a lovely person. She's not like one of those AA Nazis,
Right.
So
Yeah.
but definitely I think I wanted to make other people proud and I wanted to fit in. And then when I kept staying sober, I was like, okay, well, this is working. I'm staying sober, so maybe I am an alcoholic and I need to keep, attending AA because it keeps me sober. Yeah.
Yeah. So you fell right into the narrative.
Yeah.
This is, I for the audience, I want to say this is exactly how cults work. And it can be subtle like this. It can be just a subtle movement of somebody's life where they feel, you question things, but they sort of corral you and say, no, that's your disease talking. And, or you can have like with me where they just trap you when you're mandated in a mental hospital and they say, you're going to accept your disease or you're never getting out.
Right.
I mean, it can be anywhere in between there. So, yeah.
So you built a whole lifestyle around AA. And so when did you start thinking, I don't know if I want to keep doing this anymore?
Well, I think it was like 2018 when the first question started nagging at me, and it was the same time when my 7 years long home group ended. So then I started going more to these other groups, and I was like, okay, this is very culty, because our little group was like young people's group, and there were like a handful of people, and I always felt very safe in there. But then I started going more to these other meetings, and I was like, this is very weird, and very like you have to do things a certain way, and you can't think for yourself. And that's the first time I started to question things, and then there were just more and more questions, and at the end I just ended up leaving AA.
Well, tell me what those questions were.
Well, at first they were about the program. I was like, who says we have to do things in a certain way, and why do I have to make, I don't know, 4 different lists in my 4th step, and I mean, a
Oh,
lot of,
wow.
yeah, or maybe it was 3 lists, but like sex list and resentment list and fear
Yes,
list, and I
yes.
was like, this doesn't have anything, this doesn't have anything to do with my drinking, so I didn't understand it.
So,
Yeah.
this is interesting. So, in your original group, were you going when you were going to AA all those years? Were you going to just one group, or were you going to other groups, or did you just stay in that one group?
I went to other groups also, but
Okay,
mostly to my home group.
your home group.
Yeah.
And so, did you actually do any of the steps, or no?
Well, at first I did like the steps according to the NA book with my sponsor, so it was a little different. There were more questions, and we were talking things through with my sponsor. But then I think like 2018 or 17, I actually did the big book, 12
I
steps.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
interesting.
interesting. So you're now at that point, you've been involved for a lot of years, and they're still pounding the steps and saying you have to go through this process. And that's real fundamentalist, right? That's the sort of big book thumping kind of crazy that they
Mhm.
do. Yeah. Yeah. And then really where they get you is in the 4th step, because that's the confessional, right? That's where you're going to write your dirty down.
Yeah.
And this is where they do the ego deflation at depth. And this was designed, by the way, this whole 4th step, 5th step confessional thing was designed around you no longer having privacy. You become more subservient to the group, because now you've sort of admitted everything
Right.
to them, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're
So they
right.
got the dirt on you.
Yeah, they got the dirt on you, and your own identity starts to slip away with this kind of stuff. It's more groupthink. Did you experience that with the steps in the second time around, that it was getting weird?
Yeah, definitely weird and like almost abusive, because I felt like it was so harsh, and they were like, people weren't very loving. It was like, you have to do these steps, and almost like you're a sinner and you're a bad person. And I've
Yeah.
never felt like that. I've always felt like I'm too nice, and I've always kind of been a little bit like a victim, because I had an abusive childhood and whatever. So people telling me that I'm the problem was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Michelle and I both went through that, where we had abused backgrounds, and then AA says, what is your part in it? And now I suppose that statement isn't that bad when you're an adult. I still think it's
Yeah,
really
when you're
twisted. But
in your 40s or 50s, and you go and you've committed adultery, and you've done all these things, and that you can look at. But even people in their 40s and 50s, when they go, if you go all the way back to the childhood, a lot of their misbehavior as adults stemmed from learning shitty ways to live when they were children,
yeah,
right?
yeah, you're still in some cases a victim. But certainly when you're a kid and being abused, there's
Mm.
no justification for it's not like I sat there and said, please abuse me. You know what I mean?
Right.
What part did I have in it? I didn't have any part in it. I mean, the people that were supposed to love me are hitting me and hurting me, right? So it's such a gaslighting warped thing to do that. And you said it perfectly. I think it is abusive. I think that using inside knowledge on somebody like that is really harmful shit, you know? Okay.
Well, no, I was just thinking. So you had a sponsor in AA. Did you have to Did you have to do the fifth step? Read your fourth step to this sponsor in AA.
Yeah, yeah. And I did it when I was like 7 years sober, because I had never done the official 12 steps. So I wanted to do it like correctly.
Do it right. That's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Now, was that your decision? Was that something that's just part of your personality, or were you pushed and prodded into that place?
It was my decision, and actually I suffered from depression at that time, and I was kind of willing to do anything. And then one time I just called this woman because I was depressed and had PTSD and panic attacks and burnout and whatever, and just being 25. And
That's right.
yeah, and she was in AA, so I called her and I was like, "Do you have any experiences about depression?" And she was like, "You just have to do the program." And she's actually not the one I did the program with, but now I'm like, that's not like mental health advice, and oh my God, that's so bad.
Well, and
It is bad.
This is great that you brought this up, because this is a problem, a huge problem I have with not only AA but the treatment system itself, and that is what you went through as a 25-year-old who was sober all that time had nothing to do with the fact that you once liked partying, right? It didn't have anything to do with that. All it had to do with was quite frankly, some normal struggles in your 20s. That was around 25. I went to therapy to actually get help with horrible anxiety. I had horrible anxiety attacks, and I had had a bipolar diagnosis previous to that. So I thought, this is my dual diagnosis. This is my addiction and bipolar. And thankfully I found a therapist. I didn't listen to the AA folks because I quite frankly thought most of them didn't know anything about anything.
Right.
So I wasn't a people pleaser that way when it came to things like that. But this woman ended up being great because she was the one who said, "You're normal." And he had the same experience with my dad.
Yeah.
So what you're going through is normal and you're going to be okay. And but God, I can't imagine being told, okay, you got to do this fourth and fifth step, because if anything's going to make you depressed, that will.
Yeah.
So what were your results from that? Like, did you feel better?
No, no.
I wouldn't think so.
No. Not at all.
Yeah, I also didn't feel worse. I kind of didn't feel anything, and I was like, "This is not fucking working," you know?
Right. Because it can't. Because it can't work.
Complete hocus pocus.
Because it doesn't have anything to do.
It's just hocus pocus.
Well, to be fair, I can remember doing. Now, thankfully, my undergraduate work was in mental health. So when I worked with my sponsees when I was in AA all those years, I did not say, "Hey, we should do a fifth step to help with your depression." Never did that. But I can remember people saying, "Oh, I feel so much better after it." But the only reason that's a placebo effect, because the only reason you would feel at all anything is because you're actively doing something and you have an expectancy with it that, oh, I'm going to feel better if I do this, right? But if people are honest, after I did my fifth step, I felt so much worse. I went into a tailspin because I didn't do it thinking I would feel better about anything, but I didn't think I would become depressed after doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and having, I mean, that's when I was having anxiety attacks to beat the band. So, oh gosh, so you did this. So then you started really questioning things after this?
Yeah, yeah. And then sometimes the questions went away, but then they always came back. And then the more because when I joined AA, I was 19 and everybody kind of left me alone. But then when I became like a woman, I kind of realized that, oh my God, this is not a safe place for a woman. There is so much harassment, and just the vibe you get from the guys and the older women defending the guys, and that was I just didn't feel safe. So that was a big part of me deciding to leave finally.
Yeah, that's a huge culture.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about the fact that you went a little bit public about that issue? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I actually wrote to Finish Gra Vine about the harassment and the lack of diversity and the lack of LGBTQ, like all of this, like it's very patriarchal, and I wrote about it to Finish Gra Vine, and then they responded to me that they can't publish it because they send the grapevine to prisons and institutions, and my letter might ruin AA's reputation. And I was like, okay, like it's not my letter ruining it. I mean, they're doing it themselves.
Right.
That's amazing. So they put that in writing. That they
Yeah.
responded in writing. That is absolutely
Yeah,
amazing.
we can't let it get out that first of all, women aren't safe. That people of different sexual preferences aren't safe. I mean, we can't let that get out, right? And that's remarkable. That's remarkable.
That's really
and you know
sad.
I guess it surprised me because here in this country where AA began, Bill Wilson was a very well documented womanizing
Nightmare.
I mean, he created the culture that protects predators. And part of me thinks that maybe that was on purpose, but I don't know.
I think it's just an outgrowth of his deity status, right? Part of the cult of AA is that he was a prophet.
And you see that in other cults too, dangerous cults too.
Yeah, they almost always are sexual predators.
Mm-hmm. But I guess I'm shocked that it was exported to Europe.
Yeah.
To that extent. But clearly it is, because it's written into the whole culture of it.
Now, had you left at that point? Were you still involved when you wrote the letter, or had you left already?
Yeah, I was still involved. It was like 3 years ago, I think, when I wrote the letter, and then I still kept going to meetings, and I was kind of also trying to find a right meeting for me, because whenever somebody is behaving badly, it's like, oh, you just have to find a better meeting, but like, there are no safe meetings in AA, because anyone can just walk to any meeting, and nobody to protect you and nobody to report harassment. So I kind of realized that it doesn't matter which meeting I attend to, like it's still not safe.
No,
that's right.
No, and I don't know about your country, but in this country, there's a lot of mandating by courts that goes on and into meetings, and it doesn't. Sex offenders, it doesn't. If one of the stipulations a lot of times of not going to jail or getting out of jail is that you have to attend AA meetings, and these are violent offenders. So you don't know who you're sitting next to.
That's right.
At a meeting. I mean, there's harassment comes from all levels, but it can be very serious, a very serious, scary. I mean, you were in a halfway house with scary people too.
Yeah, you're very lucky that you didn't get really hurt there.
Yeah. So tell us about leaving.
Yeah.
Talk about the good stuff.
The good stuff. Now we're going to move into freedom.
Yeah, the good stuff was actually Google. I mean, Google and social media, and that's why I really love the internet these days, because there is so much information available, and because I tried to talk to my sponsor and to other people in AA and my normie friends, but I just felt like I need more information, and then I just read articles and I watched YouTube videos criticizing AA, and then finally just by accident last year I read an article, and it had a link to Monica Richardson's Facebook groups about deprogramming AA, and then I just joined all of the Facebook groups, and then I found Monica's documentary, The 13th Step, and now I've actually talked to two women who have also left AA, and we've actually met through Zoom and talk about our AA trauma. So it kind of opened up this whole new world to me. But I don't wanna, I don't wanna start another addiction to group, so I have to be careful.
That's a great point.
That
That's a
is
great
a
point.
great
So
point.
yeah, it's all about being free, right? To move on with your life and be free. So so you see the documentaries, you were active in the groups. How did you find the freedom model?
I was searching podcasts, and then your podcast just came up, and then I listened to every single episode, and then
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love podcasts. And then I was actually curious about the freedom model, but then I was like, well, I don't have a drinking problem, so why would I do any
That's
model
right.
like ever
That's
again?
great.
That's right.
So when did that, what you just described is everything. So when
Yeah.
did it hit you that I can be free and I really don't have to have this apparatus attached to me anymore? I can just go live my life. When did what do you remember when that happened?
Yeah, actually, it was like 3 months ago when I started drinking moderately, when I had my first drink, and I was like, okay, this is not a relapse. This is just something I choose to do. And sometimes I drink and sometimes I don't drink. And then one time I actually got very drunk and I had a terrible hangover. But even then I didn't drink. I didn't think that this means I'm an alcoholic. I was
Good.
like, this is just a hangover and it will go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, that's great.
That is amazing. That is amazing because for you, I mean, you really, she was in it for 13 years and to actually leave and be like, you know what? None of that ever applied to me. That is really remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's actually probably statistically, we know that this
That's
is an
true.
experience that a lot of people have, but I think that there hasn't been a voice. There
Yeah.
hasn't been a voice of people until we came along, Monica and several others in the last probably 5-6 years.
Oh, man, it's been like 10 years.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it's gained momentum in the last 5 years
for sure.
where now people are coming out in droves saying, you know what, this shit was crazy and it hurt me. And now I'm free to live my life.
Yeah.
And it's really hard when you're in it to see that, wouldn't you say?
Definitely, and because everyone around you is like, no, this is a good thing. You just have to work the steps, and I've worked the steps, and I've found my answer, and I found God, and I found everything, and you just need to do more service. Like nobody really listens to you, so it's very hard to hear your own voice.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
right.
gaslit constantly with your own experience. Yeah, that is so frustrating. And what happens is, and this is for the audience, what happens is you eventually doubt everything you think. You second guess everything. And you learn from the cult not to accept your own thoughts. And that's a terrible place to be in.
Yeah, it's so scary. So scary. So were you fearful when you drank again at all?
Yeah, I was very fearful, and I actually texted one of my normie friends, and I was like, I just bought a cider and I'm gonna drink it, and this is something I wanna do, but I'm scared. But then when I realized nothing happened, I just started laughing, and then I posted to the deprogramming Facebook group like, LOL, guess what happened? Fucking nothing,
That's right. That was my experience too. I was like, I was at a wedding and I had champagne, which I love. And I can remember I drank it. And my husband hadn't drank in like 21 years. And we both drank the champagne. And later on, I'm like, nothing happened. He's like, what did you think was going to happen? I'm like, I don't know.
I thought the same thing. I did it. I hid in a hotel room and drank half of one of those little things of black velvet. And I thought, I remember thinking, I drank it like half a shot and I thought, wow, this is familiar,
Yeah.
right? The taste and everything. This is very familiar because I hadn't tasted alcohol at that point in 21 years. And then I was like, oh, tastes like shit. It tastes like shit. And okay. And that was
I
that.
liked my champagne.
And that was that. And I was done. Then I realized it didn't mean the same thing. There was no magic. There was no youthful, overblown idea of it. You know, I didn't want to be shit-faced. I just didn't care about any of it. And I guess that's what maturing out is all about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you got drunk, because we've each, since we've been drinking, have had experiences, right, where we've drank a lot more. Did you like it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I was like, this is kind of something I need to do, and I've kind of missed it, and this is something I've denied myself my whole, you know,
Yeah.
20s.
Yep.
So yeah, it was kind of fun, but then, well, I'm a very small woman, and my body can't really handle anything anyway, like caffeine, nicotine, nothing. So I got very drunk very quickly, and then I felt awful. So it was a good and bad experience at the same
Yep. I
time.
get it. I get
get
it.
it
But
too.
were you with friends and stuff having fun? Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
at a party and everyone else was drinking, and I was like, oh, this is what I've, you know,
That's what you've been missing.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, in a way, even though I think like drinking alcohol is not something I want to do all the time, but
Me
also I'm
neither.
like, maybe it's a part of life and it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. It is. Right. It's part of the social life. And I've had experiences, a lot of experiences at parties where I'm not drinking. But I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the social aspect of it.
And I
Mm.
think you said it best with what you just said was I don't want to be drunk all the time. You said that. I don't or some statement like that, but the want was in there. I don't really, you know, I'm not in this to get hammered all the time. And I think that once you get there where that's really you really don't want to be hammered all the time, you're not in AA, you're just living your life, then what happens is this whole icon of this massive thing, it used to be massive to you, is nothing. It's meaningless, right? And what a
Yeah.
great experience. What a great experience you had.
So when you left AA and you went out there, I mean, a lot of people have experiences where their entire friendship base is in the cult, right?
Mhm.
It sounds like you had friends outside. And so it's just like kind of a natural transition for you.
Yeah, luckily, my sponsor has always had her life, and then AA has always been kind of a small part of her life. And I'm so
Gotcha.
glad I did the same thing because leaving was so much easier. And I still have, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 friends in AA. Some of them know I left, some of them I haven't had the courage to tell yet. But yeah, luckily, I've always had
That's
my,
so good.
yeah, my own life. So yeah.
Yeah. So listen, everyone out there, that is that, my whole world became AA. I left
Mine
all my
too.
old friends behind. And so leaving, thankfully I had my husband and I had Mark and we kind of all left together. So that was helpful, but it was still all my girlfriends pretty much were in AA. And so when I left, I was not only alone, but I was shunned. And people were really mad at me that I wasn't going to meetings anymore because I had sponsored so many women and stuff. Were you sponsoring people when you left? Did you have to like kind of let people know?
I was sponsoring only one woman, and she already had 10 years of sobriety, and it was more like a friendship. And she just wanted to do the steps with me. And then I told her that, look, I left and I'm drinking, so maybe we shouldn't do the steps together. So,
How did she receive?
Want to come over and have some cocktails?
Oh my gosh! What did she say?
well, she was surprised, but she didn't like abandon me, and she was like,
Wow.
"Okay, I'm a little concerned, but it's your life." So I'm really glad that I have, managed to find out good people in AA who are my friends anyway, because that's not necessarily what happens when you leave.
That's really good. That is really good.
Yeah, you got lucky there.
The friends that I had in AA, I don't think I've talked to any. I mean, I run into them periodically, but I don't think I've talked to any of them.
No, I haven't either.
Mm-mm.
And they've never called me either.
No, and these were people we spent like they were young people's meetings because we were in AA through our 20s, and we spent 4 or 5 days a week with these people for
yeah.
several years, and it just was like cut off. cut off. It was
But I think we were in a very, very polarized, deep
well,
cult. Like we were in deep.
we're in New York, and that AA pretty much started in New York, so
It's hardcore.
it is hardcore
Mm.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you escaped. I'm glad
Me
that you've moved
too.
on. I'm glad that you're free to live the life you want to live.
And living it, that's tremendous.
Yeah, and that's what we want the viewers to hear. We want to hear these stories because they're
Success stories.
actually common, and we're going to continue to give that voice out. So, do you have any other things you want to say, Emma?
Well, I just want to encourage everyone to think for themselves and be aware of cults and try to live the life you want to live and not let anyone tell you what you should or should not do.
Good.
Yeah,
that's great
awesome.
advice. That is really great advice. And look at, if something feels wrong, listen to your intuition.
That's right.
You know, because I can remember thinking, I was, like you, I was 22. I was a young woman in AA, and here we were at these meetings, and men were huggy and holding hands at the end. It was all it made me very uncomfortable. And but I was told I was the problem. And that this is what we do here, and I never liked any of it. So yeah, it's not okay for people to insist that they get to like rub up on you all the time. Just saying.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Emma, for coming and talking with us and telling everybody your incredible success story.
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
Yeah. So, all right, everyone. Now, I just want to let everyone know, we're just going to do a little housekeeping here, that if you have a success story like Emma's and you want to talk with us about it, you can reach us at info@thefreedommodel.org and let us know. And we'll talk about maybe having you on as a guest.
And also one other thing, just announcing that we finished the 4 the solution to addiction workshops. We are picking the one we liked the best, that was the most thorough. And Michelle is editing it, and it will be a pre-recorded course that you'll be able to buy and go through, and you'll get the workbook, you'll get all our books, you'll get another book about ending your binge construct. Yeah, so that's going to be on the website probably within a week or 2.
Yes. So stay tuned for that. And Emma, don't go away. I'm gonna end our session here, our recording session. Everyone, if you like our podcast, give us 5 stars wherever you listen, and tell your friends.
Yep, helps us reach more people.
Yes. See everyone next week. Are you struggling with a drug or alcohol problem, but you don't want to go to rehab or group meetings? That's why we created the non-12-step Freedom Model Coaching Program in 2011. Through video conferencing on Zoom or Skype, you can work privately with a certified Freedom Model coach from your home or office on your schedule. And here's the best part. With the Freedom Model, you'll never be labeled an addict or an alcoholic, and we won't tell you to go to 12-step meetings or hamper your life with endless recovery rituals. Instead, you can learn exactly why addiction isn't a disease and how you can solve the problem for good and move on with your life. Do you want to be completely free from your addiction? Do you want to never have to attend meetings, rehabs, or addiction counseling ever again? And do you want to solve your problem from the comfort of home? Then call us at 888-424-2626 to talk with a Freedom Model coach today and experience the Freedom Model difference.